Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to talk about a really special topic for us. My name is Adora Mora. I work at Curriculum Associates. If you don't know us, we're the makers of iReady. I'm sure a few of you in the crowd have heard of that product. And this past fall, we were really excited to have the Soapbox family, to have Soapbox join our CA family. So we're super excited about it. We're going to talk about some of the implications. iReady will be voice-enabled. That is the goal. And it unlocks a lot of really powerful use cases that will unlock time for teachers, drive for better instruction, and ultimately accelerate student outcomes. So we're going to talk more about that in our panel. The future of assessment is invisible. And I have two of my colleagues here who will introduce themselves and we'll get going. Yeah. Kristen, Amelia, you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kristen Huff. I'm head of assessment and research at Curriculum Associates, and I do a lot of work with iReady and making sure that the data that we gather is useful for teachers and personalizing instructions for students.
Hi, my name is Amelia Kelly. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Soapbox Labs. I lead the team in Soapbox that creates the underlying AI voice technology that will soon power all the iReady and Curriculum Associates products for assessment and learning. So my background is in technology, and I'm the tech side of this. It's Kristen you want to talk to about the assessment side, but together I think we can make the future of assessment invisible.
So two experts in our space. The first question I have for both of you, and Kristen, you'll go first. When we say the future of assessment is invisible, what exactly do we mean?
Yeah. We like to say that the future of assessment is invisible because the promise of using this voice-empowered AI allows us to unlock a lot of the constraints that we've lived with for years when it comes to assessment. And so when we think about the future of assessment, we want to see assessment that is so integral to instruction, that is so seamless with instruction, that we no longer have to stop and disrupt instruction in order to check where students are along the learning path. We know that one of the most effective things that teachers do in classrooms is they're constantly updating their mental model about where students are along the learning path, whether it's through observation of student work, listening to student discourse, directly questioning them, or administering an assessment. So now we have the power of all of that to collect that information in a very seamless, very easy way and put it back in front of teachers in a way that they can use quickly to inform their instructional decisions. Now, this is the promise and the hope. We're at the beginning stages of that. But yes, what we mean by the future of assessment is invisible is that it's integrated and seamless and non-disruptive to the instructional endeavor.
I love that Kristen, in terms of it being something that complements instruction in a way that saves teachers time. Amelia, could you add your perspective on it as well?
Yes, absolutely. So obviously the end game here is to improve outcomes for the students and to empower the teacher to be able to continue instruction, as Kristen said, without being interrupted with having to do assessment. I believe that voice enabling the products and education services that are there already, like literacy products, reading tools, by putting voice AI behind them to voice power them, will allow this invisibility of assessment. And I mean, that might sound a bit vague, so maybe I'll just get a bit more specific about use cases. When children are learning to read, they're doing specific tasks like phonological awareness, they're doing their letter sounds. A teacher will hold up a letter and ask them what the name of that letter is. They will be reading passages and practicing their oral reading fluency. If we can voice enable products that allow children to practice these different tasks, children can practice on their own, and crucially, they can use their voice to speak aloud. This is a very natural way for most children to interact with technology but one that isn't actually available at the moment because of technological challenges. At Soapbox, we've been building this technology for the last 10 years that would allow these products and services to listen while the child speaks aloud and provide feedback to the teacher or the child on their performance. And by feedback, I mean we can say whether they said the word correctly or not. We can provide a confidence score about how well they said the word. Did they say it 70% correct or 90% correct? We can provide this confidence score right down to the phoneme level. So when a child is segmenting a word, for example, we can tell that they mixed up the d sound with the b sound, for example. And the teacher would have access to all this information as another data stream. Now they can choose to feed back to the student on particular mistakes the student made. They can choose not to, but also longitudinally, they could see perhaps if the child has an articulatory challenge with a particular sound, or whether they are improving as they learn to read and they're getting a higher words correct per minute in their oral reading fluency, for example. I think maybe the best way for me to explain this is to show a video. So if we could please roll the video.
So fascinating. So we've talked a bit about what invisible means, and you heard from Kristen, who talked about the fact that it is non-disruptive in those learning moments. You heard from Amelia, who talked a lot about it feeling natural. You saw from the video some of the use cases around oral reading fluency. And I'd love to talk a bit more about impact. So Kristen, if you could kick us off as a leader in assessment, how do you think about the impact to teachers and students? What does that look like?
Yeah, thanks, Adora. When I think about the future of assessment being invisible, I think about what decades of research from all over the world have shown us again and again, that the best thing that we can do for students is to put them in classrooms with effective teachers. And when you think about what makes an effective teacher, it means that she has her most precious resource, time, that she can devote to instruction rather than all of the other things that are demanding teachers' time. Teachers are stretched thin more than ever these days, and our students are in dire need of effective instruction. We know this from the research that we've been doing at CA and that has been done by many other organizations over the past several years. The impact of the pandemic on learning, we have not recovered to pre-pandemic levels at the rate that we need to make sure that students are learning, especially the foundational skills they need in reading, to learn to read, phonics, phonemic awareness, all of these foundational skills in reading. Students are not back to pre-pandemic levels. The same with numeracy, early numeracy skills. So anything that we can do to put tools in the hands of teachers so that they can have this information about where students are in each of these subject areas so that they can better tailor instruction, and we help them with that too, then the teacher can do what we know really moves the needles for students, which is focus on instruction. So again, the future of assessment is invisible because it is integrated with instruction, it is not disruptive, it's authentic, and it helps the teacher personalize the learning path for each student.
I love that. I love this idea that it is something that helps to make the learning moment more precise and more thoughtful, where the teacher can really unlock what is needed for any one of his or her students at any moment in time. And so we've talked a bit about this level of urgency, the potential for impact. Let's talk a bit about the guardrails, especially about using technology like AI. And Amelia, could you talk a bit about privacy and equity considerations of using AI in the classroom? What are things that every educator should be thinking about and mindful of when they use a type of technology that Soapbox has?
Sure. Well, I've worked in speech technology for about 15 years now, and I've worked in building these systems from scratch. A lot of people know about voice recognition from a smart speaker in their home, like the Google Home app or Siri or Alexa. These are big companies who build speech technology using a lot of adult data and grown-up situations like purchasing things and turning lights on and off. These are systems that have been trained by examples of user speech, and they do not work for children's speech in children's situations. At Soapbox, we've dedicated 10 years to building a speech recognition system that learns by example, by showing it examples of children speaking, reading, and learning. Children from all different backgrounds, English language learners, all accents and dialects, engaging in these activities that they do when they're learning, such as oral reading fluency and phonological awareness. This is very important because that means that the technology that we've built from the ground up is perfectly catered to these learning scenarios. And that is super important because that means it works for these learning scenarios. AI is only effective if it works for all students equally and if it works for the situations that it's needed in. It's very important to curriculum associates that any AI technology that they take and put in their products that are already in classrooms and reaching 13 million children in this country, that any voice AI that goes in behind it has to work equitably and equally well and abide by any privacy regulations, in fact, be ahead of any privacy regulations. At Soapbox, we're always aware that voice data is sometimes personally identifiable data. It's sensitive data. It's your children's voice patterns. And we are absolutely on top of regulation when it comes to that and always has been. In fact, we've been ahead of it. We only use voice data to make these models better, to train the model. The voice data remains the property of the speaker. And therefore, if we need it to be deleted from our system, that can happen in an instant. And we make sure that we've no competing business models. So unlike bigger companies that may provide voice technology services, but they also advertise at you. The reason that they're gathering your voice data is to actually be able to do target advertising, because that is their business model. At Soapbox, our business model was to provide speech recognition that works equally well for every child and nothing else. So we are very transparent about how our data is used. We're very transparent about how our model is built. And I think this is absolutely mandatory for building trust in the users, the children, the parents, the teachers, the school district heads, the people who are making decisions about what technology they'll adopt into their school systems so that we can make the greatest impact for children and student learning outcomes.
Yeah. So Amelia, just a quick follow-up on that, because in the video we saw information that included things like words correct per minute. We saw things like accuracy. And then here you are saying that Soapbox is creating this solution for every student. Students have a range of dialects and accents across a range of ages. Could you give some examples of just how Soapbox approaches that nuance to really deliver that trust for educators in your product?
Sure. So when we started building this technology, we began at the forefront of the available technology. We were forward thinking. We wanted to use the latest and greatest cutting edge technology. We build using GPUs, we use neural nets. We use a sophisticated modeling system that allows us to train large amounts of data, but not just any data. So we carefully select data so it's not skewed towards one accent and dialect. We ensure that the voice data we use for training our models covers as many accents and dialects as possible. And we also have a very transparent and very rigorous testing system. It's not always easy to know how an AI system will react or what kind of answers it will give. They have a reputation of being black box systems. We want to take away some of that mystique. So we make sure that we always know what our model is being trained on. We make sure that we always know what we're testing is suitable. So we test all these different use cases. We test across age ranges. We test separately for Latino English speakers, for African American English speakers, for Southern US accents, for example. We make sure our technology works equally well for all these subgroups. And when we find that in certain situations it isn't, we target it and seek to improve it. And there are as many dialects in the world as there are people in the world, obviously. So it's very difficult to cover this, but what we do is we just keep working on it and we're transparent about it. In fact, at Soapbox, we opened up our processes for an audit by Digital Promise and became the first and only company to receive the Micro-Credential Award for prioritizing racial equity in AI design. And that's something we're very proud of, and it's something that we keep up to date to ensure that our system is equitable and equal for all students.
Super impressive. I love this idea of transparency, of equity by design. We got a few minutes left. I'd love to hear, Amelia and Kristen, your final messages. What are some important things that we should take away from believing that this future assessment is invisible, and how that we might see that manifest in not only iReady, but other products? What expectations should we have?
I would just like to close with saying that everything that Amelia discussed about the commitment to equity and transparency in the voice AI technology, we have the same commitment when it comes to our assessment and learning systems that are digitized and now will start to be empowered as well by voice AI. We are committed to transparency, equity, and serving the diversity of student cultures represented in our student population. And this technology allows us to do so even better, to give teachers what they need to better serve all students.
Love it. And then Amelia, you want to close us out?
Well, I think voice AI has the power to solve the literacy crisis in this country, but only if it's adopted and built considerately. I think that the onus lies on companies who are providing this technology to be as transparent as possible and to do their best in building technology that will actually work. So that's what I'm committed to doing. That's what Soapbox and Curriculum Associates are committed to doing together.
So we're excited. Thank you so much for hearing us out. If you have questions, if you have thoughts on invisible assessment, if you have thoughts on voice-enabled AI that Soapbox has built, we'd love to hear from you. We're around, and I hope you have a really great rest of afternoon. And lastly, if you want to demo voice AI, we're also around as well to learn more about how equity is embedded into Soapbox work. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Great.